Recently, I shot a video comparing the Mi A3 with the Realme 5 Pro, but a lot of you guys wanted to see it compared with the Realme 5. They do share the same chip after all, right? You wanted it, you got it. Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech, and if you do end up liking this comparison video, please don't forget to turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Let's go ahead, get started. Let's kick things off with the build and design. Pick up both these phones and you instantly feel the better build quality of the Mi A3. That's because Xiaomi has opted to use glass instead of plastic for the back here. Of course, the Realme 5, like all Realme phones before it still uses plastic. That said, both these phones, they look quite nice. The Realme 5 combines the usual diamond cut pattern of Realme devices with a gradient finish, ending up with a unique new look. On the other hand, the Mi A3, it's got the shiny S pattern running along the back, and when it shimmers in the light, the whole thing looks stunning. Coming to the form factor, the A3 is shorter, narrower and slimmer, and when you add to it the fact that it's almost 25 grams lighter, it's no surprise that the A3 feels more ergonomic in hand. That glass to the back, it's not just any glass, it's actually Gorilla Glass 5, which makes it quite resistant to scratches, especially when you compare it to plastic. So this round, it goes to the Mi A3. Now I've turned them around and the differences, they continue. Now it's not just the screen size. The bigger 6.5-inch panel on the Realme 5, it's an IPS LCD panel. On the other hand, the smaller 6-inch panel on the Mi A3, it's AMOLED. Side by side, you can see how deep the black levels are on the Mi A3. Overall, the colors, they look vivid and brighter here. Realme has Gorilla Glass 3 Plus for protection, but the A3, it's got Gorilla Glass 5. So even here, Xiaomi holds an edge. When it comes down to resolution, it's the same on both these phones, HD+. So the only real advantage for Realme 5, it's the larger screen size. And if we were to really nitpick, the notch up top on the Realme 5, it's a tiny bit smaller. The Mi A3 though, it hits right back with support for Widevine L1, so we can stream HD content from Amazon Prime and Netflix. Now that's something Realme seemingly cannot do, at least as of now. As far as speakers go, these two, they are on par, and surprisingly the headphone output from the Realme 5 is louder, but you do get a richer and wider soundstage with the A3. That said, unless you really care about the larger display or the louder headphone output, the Mi A3 is the clear winner this time. Enough with the media comparison, let's now take a look at what's underneath the hood. Like I mentioned at the start, both phones are powered by the same chip. It's the same Qualcomm chip here, the Snapdragon 665. It's a refresh of the older Snapdragon 660. Now, it comes with some performance improvements with day-to-day tasks like opening up apps or loading up a web page. Both these phones perform equally well. For the most part, they're pretty smooth and snappy, even while multitasking. That said, the animations, they do appear to be a little smoother on the A3. On the memory front, the A3 is available in 464 and 6128 RAM storage options, while Realme offers more options. It's got 332, 464 and 4128. The Realme 5 also comes with a dedicated microSD card slot for memory expansion, while the A3 has to make do with a hybrid option. Finally, when it comes to gaming, the Adreno 610 does a decent job, but the addition of Game Boost 2.0 on ColorOS 6 means that the overall gaming experience is slightly better with the Realme 5. Since they share the same processor, the performance round essentially comes down to the software optimization and preference. Personally, I'll go with Realme 5 here because of the edge in gaming performance and support for dedicated microSD. Next, let's talk about software. We have the same Android 9 Pie running on both these phones, yet they look completely different. We have vanilla Android on the Mi A3, while the Realme 5 runs on custom ColorOS 6. ColorOS comes with a lot of user-friendly features. We have navigation gestures, easy access to notification toggles. There's a heavy focus on privacy. Basically, there's everything from themes to customize the look and feel, to software optimizations like game space that we touched upon earlier in the performance segment. On the other hand, the Mi A3, as part of the Android One program, it runs on a bloat-free, clean version of the OS, just like Google meant it to be. There are no ads here, even though the A3 is part of Xiaomi's smartphone lineup. Both phones, they have support for FM radio as well as Face Unlock. Now, at the end of the day, software is something that comes down to personal preference. Me personally, like I said in the Realme 5 Pro versus Mi A3 video, I would personally choose Android One on the Mi A3. And it seems like the majority of you guys would too. But then again, that was when we were talking cheaper stock Android versus more expensive ColorOS. Now that the roles are reversed, now that we are talking cheaper ColorOS versus more expensive stock Android, does your choice change? Here's a poll again, let me know. Moving on to battery life next, the Realme 5 has a massive 5000 mAh battery, while the A3 has a 20% lower capacity but still commendable 4030 mAh unit. Now the A3 has a smaller AMOLED panel, but then stock Android isn't as optimized as ColorOS. So in real life, the Realme 5, despite having a larger IPS display, actually ends up with around 25-30% better battery life. When it comes to charging, the Realme 5 is stuck with the 10-watt included charger, no Type-C or VOOC 3.0 support like we get with the more expensive Realme 5 Pro. On the other hand, Xiaomi does support Quick Charge 3 with the Mi A3, so technically it can charge it up to 18 watts, but it ships with only a 10-watt charger in the box. So like the Realme 5, out of the box, both phones, it also charges at 10 watts, so both phones charge at the same speed. So I'm gonna give this round to the Realme 5, taking into account the fact that it has a higher capacity battery and it's gonna last longer. Now before we can head into cameras, let's quickly take a look at the sundries. The Realme 5 has dedicated microSD support, but we covered that under specs, so I'm not gonna take that into account here. The Mi A3 has an IR blaster that the Realme 5 lacks, useful if you want to control your TV or air conditioner around the house. The A3 also sports an in-display fingerprint scanner. Yes, it is slower, but it's definitely cooler and is the way forward. Speaking of the way forward, we have Type-C on the A3, while the Realme 5 is still stuck with micro USB. So when it comes to sundries, it's the Mi A3 all the way. So now, let's talk cameras. We have a triple camera setup to the back of the Mi A3, while the Realme 5 has one more camera, 4 cameras here. When it comes to numbers, we have a 12 megapixel primary on the Realme 5 with an f1.8 lens. The A3 comes with a 48 megapixel Sony IMX586 as the primary, and it's paired with the f1.79 lens. Under good lighting conditions, as you've been seeing, both phones seem to do well, but when you actually zoom in, you notice the A3 does have more detail. Also, when you see the shadows, the A3 does retain more information there too. Now this is due to having better dynamic range. I'm not surprised because I did go in expecting this. The IMX586 on the A3, it is premium hardware after all. Now both phones have a dedicated night mode, but again, the hardware difference here is too much for software to make up for. The pictures taken by the A3 are brighter and you have more detail. Yes, you can see some noise, like here in the sky with this image, but overall, it does shoot better images. Moving on from the primary, both phones have wide-angle options, nearly identical 8 megapixel snappers. On the Realme 5, it's coupled with a f2.25 lens. It offers a 119 degree field of view, while on the Mi A3, it's coupled with a f2.2 lens offering a 118 degree field of view. Realme edges out the Mi A3 here. It's got better detail as well as dynamic range. Both phones have 2 megapixel depth sensors for portraits. The edge detection is good across the board, but the A3 captures more detail and dynamic range also happens to be better. But then again, that is because at the end of the day, it's the primary sensor that's taking the pictures, right? The depth sensor only gets to do edge reduction. So here we are still looking at the primary sensor's performance. The extra force sensor on the Realme 5, well, that is the macro option, which the Mi A3 lacks. The pictures taken by it aren't particularly detailed given it is a 2 megapixel sensor after all, but it offers an interesting perspective nonetheless. You can't get these shots, you can't get this close to subjects with anything else. Zooming into a picture shot with the primary sensor doesn't quite give you the same effect. Now, when it comes to videos, both phones can shoot at up to 4K at 30 FPS. The colors are kind of washed out with the Mi A3 and the footage is jittery since you don't get EIS at this resolution. At 1080p, both phones have EIS, but the footage from the A3 looks smoother since it is captured at 60 FPS. The Realme 5 can't capture 1080p 60, but it does make up for it with punchier colors. The detail levels are pretty similar across the board. When it comes to selfies, the A3 has a 32 megapixel sensor while the Realme 5 has a 13 megapixel sensor, both with an f2 lens. Despite the huge gap in pixel count, the Realme 5's selfie camera It comes quite close to the A3s when we talk about detail. One issue with the A3 though, even with beauty mode off, you can find traces of skin softening. Now, if you are gonna pixel peep like that, you also do notice the A3, it ends up with more detail. Now that said, it also overexposes the background at times. When it comes to selfie portraits though, the edge reduction is better with the A3. So overall, when it comes to optics, when it comes to cameras, despite having one lesser sensor, I would still go with the Mi A3. I'd say quality over quantity here. So finally, let's talk price. The Realme 5 starts at 10,000 rupees. That's for the base 332 variant. For 1,000 rupees more, you get the 464. And finally, at 12,000 rupees, we have the 4128. On the other hand, the Mi A3 starts at 13,000 rupees for the 464 base and goes all the way up to 16,000 rupees for the 6128. This means if you're on a tight budget and you can only afford the base variant, the cheapest phone available, then the price difference is a solid 3,000 rupees. Or another way of looking at this is you can buy a Realme 5 with double the storage, 128 gigs to 64 on the A3 and still save 1,000 rupees. So what's the breakup here? The Realme 5 is a tad faster, it's got better battery life, dedicated micro SD, a better wide-angle camera, a unique macro option, a similar resolution display, the same chip inside, and is cheaper. So if the compromises that Realme has made aren't really important to you, or if you're on a tight budget, then considering the Realme 5 is a good idea. On the other hand, the Mi A3 has the better display, a better primary camera, a more premium and a more durable build, the stock Android experience, it's more compact. Overall, it just feels a lot more refined. And if that's more important to you, then the extra 3,000 rupees might just be worth it. That said, if you are spending extra money, you might wanna take a moment to consider the Realme 5 Pro or even the Redmi Note 7 Pro. Here's a card to those comparisons. So I guess that's it for this video. Let me know which of these two phones do you prefer. What's your choice when it comes to the Realme 5 and the Mi A3? If you had to choose between these two, what would you actually choose and why? Let me know in the comments below. Also, thumbs up, thumbs down based on whatever you felt about the video. If you have any constructive criticism, again, let me know via the comments below. Subscribe, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4E Tech. And I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.